Hello, and welcome to the Order Time Rental Module presentation. The Rental module was recently added to the Order Time Inventory and Order Management tool, which you can use to run your sales, repairs, and rentals from one integrated system. You will be able to track your inventory on rentals by serial number, issue and receive purchase orders with barcodes, reserve equipment with rental contracts, and also run your parts business with our sales order and shipping modules, all with extensive reporting and integration with your favorite accounting software. So let's go. Before we get started, we need to create a few items and set the rental module preferences. So you need to create one or more service items. A service item is necessary. Although we rent an inventoried item, the actual piece of equipment, we will use a service item for billing purposes. You can create as many of these service items and associate it either to the item itself or to the serial number. The other charge item is used for insurance rider billing. And of course, you also need the inventory parts or assemblies that are serialized. Creating items and receiving inventory is demonstrated in more details in our knowledge base located at help.ordertime.com. In particular, take a look at the video called Lot and Serial Number Tracking. So now we're going to take a look at the company preferences. And we're going to take a look at two things in particular, the minimum interval and the rental pricing grid. The minimum interval basically controls what is the minimum amount of time that you're willing to rent for. Typical choices will be either hour or day. If you pick hour, then you will see a minimum time. Also, if you pick day, you'll see a minimum time too. But you'll also see this option called use half days. Use half days is a common practice in the rental equipment market, whereby the rent is based on usage, although the contract still uses the time interval. Here's how it works. A half day is defined by a certain amount of hours. If you're under a half day, it automatically goes to, in this case, 4 hours. If you put in over this amount of time, it automatically goes to 1 day. The next two are really about how the half day and the hourly prices are determined. Here, so 70%, in this case, 70% of the full day price will be the half day price. And then there are times where, let's say, someone rents for an hour, or sorry, a day and 2 hours, we need to have the hourly rate, and that would be the half day rate divided by, in this case, 4. Now, continuing on with the rental price grid, this basically is a template, a default, to make so you can easily price out your rental equipment. And so if you have a minimum interval in days, you're going to see that all you have to do is enter the number of days, and then the rest is calculated based on all these parameters. So for example, if I put in let's say $5 for a day, it'll multiply that by 3 for the week price and by 11 for the month price. As I mentioned earlier on, we're going to need an inventory or an assembly item. Those are the two types of items for which order time tracks quantity. And you're going to have to make it a serialized item and also enable it for rental. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to create an item. I'm going to put it into our parts group. And I'm going to name it Big 02. we put in the price. If we're going to sell it, if we're going to buy it, we put in the cost. All right. And we want to check this little box right here. All right. So once we check that little box, we can see that we now have the rental tab. All right. All I have to do now is say this is available for rent, and by default, I have the service item that's going to be used, and we also have the insurance rider that's going to be used. But of course, like I said, you can change it per item. So we want to take a look at the daily price, and let's say the daily price is 150. Based on all the other business rules that we determined, the system will automatically compute the other prices. Now I can override, let's say I want to just override this weekly price, and that's it. It won't change anything else. By changing the daily price, however, it will change everything else. And all I have to do is save. Okay. Now, as you can see, I have no inventory of those. And typically, you may already have that in inventory. So as a quick solution, you can adjust the inventory in, and we'll just pick any account for now. So I'm going to adjust this inventory into the system, and we're going to add a couple of serial numbers. And I'm going to close that. All right. So essentially, now you can also do that. Obviously, you can do a purchase order and receive it in. You're just buying an asset. You're buying inventory in the normal way that you would usually do that in order time. One of the things that you will do over and over again is check for availability. A customer will call and they'll say, I need such and such on this particular date. What do you have? So in order to do that, we're going to check the rental dashboard. So here is my three items that I have. I have big 03, the one I just created, and heavy. And you can see actually that some of these are already rented. The color coding that you can do in preferences, and if I hover over, means that this one is in reservation. This one is out, meaning that it's out, it's gone. And this one is scheduled to go out today. And this one over here is just in a quote. So that's what you do. Now, if I only wanted to look at one of the items, I can just filter. And also, if I wanted to look at just one status type, I would use that. As well. So remove those. I just have to backspace on that to remove that filter, and do all for that. Okay, so now I'm back here. So you can see here, someone asks, "Hey, what's the price?" You can just click on that little box here, and you see the hourly price, daily price, half day price, and all that. On the grid, you can see that this item over here, it will not be available to rent because it's on a repair order. Okay, it's on a repair order, meaning that that it's in the process of being repaired and it's locked. Now, the repair order has to be approved in order for it to be locked. You'll also see some other icons, for example, that we need to deliver this one and we need to pick it up as well. This rental contract, which we'll see in a second, has both a delivery shipping method and a pickup shipping method. Now, here's the most important point. You may have the same equipment on multiple rental contracts that are in a quote status, okay? Which is fine, that will work. When the first one of those contracts is reserved, the other contracts in the same time period for the same serial number or equipment will be voided. Okay, so that's an important thing to keep in mind. To reserve equipment, we're going to create a rental contract. The rental contract will have the start date, the intervals, which will automatically calculate the end date, insurance waiver information, terms. We'll add equipment. We might add one-time items like fuel. We'll set up the delivery, and then we'll look at the statuses and maybe take a payment if applicable. Starting from the rental contracts list, I'm going to create a new rental contract, and then I'm going to pick a customer. I'm going to make sure that the addresses are correct, and then I'm going to pick the time that the customer wants. So let's say the customer wants 5 hours. They try to put in 5 hours. Because we're using the half-day rule, it defaults to an hour. But after at least 1 day, we can put in partial hours. We can put in the customer PO number, and the terms work the same way that the terms work, let's say, on a sales order. If you need a deposit, if the terms is deposit, then it will require a deposit on the rental contract. But we'll just put in that. Now this checkbox here is if I want to not have the insurance. Not have the insurance. Okay. The rest is memo, and I go ahead and save. All right. So we have the rental contract from this date to that date for a day and 2 hours. Now we're going to add the equipment, and they want big 01, and as you can see, big, the first 2 serial numbers are already rented, so the add button is not there. So I can only add one of these 2, so I'm going to add that one. All right. So that's how easy that is. Notice the unit of measure is in day because the minimum is in days. I can also add the fuel charge. Okay, so 25 gallons of that. And this is a one-time item. This is a one-time item that will only get charged once. So now I can take an advance payment right here if I wanted to. If they want to reserve, then I could take an advance payment like that. Okay? So I can take it with credit card, ACH, or cash. If I wanted to, I can also generate an invoice right here and now as well. So now checking our dashboard, we'll see that that third piece of equipment is now in a reservation for tomorrow. You no doubt by now notice on the dashboard and in the rental contracts that you can change the status of a rental contract, and on the dashboard they're color coded, and each one of the statuses have a specific meaning. The first status is the quote. The quote is being worked on, the rental agreement is being worked on, it's being prepared, the equipment is still available for other rental contracts. Then the status, when the status is reserved, the rental contract is approved and the equipment is not available during the contract's interval. When it's out, it's delivered, and we'll see when you change the status to out or stopped that you'll be asked whether you want to set the date to the current date or leave the contract interval as is. Because if they go over the time or they're under the time, it is possible that we could recalculate that contract. Payments could be made after the contract is reserved. You could make the payments prior to generating the invoice, and when the invoices are actually created, we'll associate the prepayment with the invoice, resulting in either that the rental is actually completely paid or a balance due. We will automatically create an invoice when the status of the rental contract is changed to stopped. That is our way of guaranteeing that if you're managing your rental contract statuses correctly, an invoice will be created for each one. I can see this rental contract over here is out, and it's just about to be returned, so we're going to take a payment on this. You can do it by credit card, but I'll just do it with cash. So that's taking a payment. As you can see, it's paid and there's no unpaid amount. All right, we're almost done with this particular rental contract. We're going to now stop it, and we're going to see that the invoice is going to be created. The payment is going to be applied. We're going to change the status to returned as well, indicating that not only is the rental stopped, but the equipment is back with us and returned. Here we have a repair order can automatically be created when the status is returned, and that is just typically sometimes you want to refresh, clean it. You want to put it on a repair order, so that you can do those types of things. And then optionally as well, you can enter machine hours, and if the machine hours exceed their allowable time, they will also be charged an additional charge for that. So we're going to do that now. So this rental is out, and we're going to change it to stopped. So there it is. It's stopped. You can see here that it went a little bit over the time, but because it's beyond that, like within a certain threshold, let's say half an hour, it's not going to charge additional. In addition to that, you can see here that the invoice was automatically created, and that there's no more uninvoiced amount and unpaid amount. Now, this invoice is really just a ship doc, and let's just kind of go through that, because the ship doc, as you know, is the order time version of an invoice. So, I mean, this is what the invoice, you can print a version of the invoice, as you can see. So this would link back to the repair contract, and all I have to do, just like any other ship doc in order time, just mark it as shipped, and it will be synchronized. Both the payment will be synchronized with your accounting records. Just like everything else in order time, you'll be able to manage the templates of your rental contracts you go to form templates, and then you'll have a template, a default template called a rental contract, which you can go in here, and just like any other form in order time, you can modify that. In addition, you'll also have some reports. So here is a sample report that I created called rental revenue by item. So as you can see here, this is the item itself. All right. And for each item, there's the serial numbers, there's the customer, start date, end date, the rental number, and then the actual revenue from that line item. That's just the rental revenue. That excludes, in this case, that excludes the insurance. Now I'm already filtering for just one item, all right? But what I could do in here is, if I want to make the serial numbers a section 2, I can do that, and I'm going to remove this one item. Let's view that. All right, so now we see the item, and we also see the serial numbers by serial number now, as opposed to by item.